The only reason I'm telling you this is because I knew Ethan really well. He wasn't the type to believe in weird stuff like this. But unfortunately, this story is burned into my mind like a nightmare with no ending. Ethan lived in one of the most boring towns in America. You know how small towns are. There's not much to do and not many people to talk to. But that night, Ethan stumbled upon an old chest in his garage. The chest was this dusty, beat-up thing from his grandfather. It had strange, cracked symbols on it and a rusty old lock. When Ethan opened it, he found an old journal inside. On the first page, written in red ink, were the words, "Do not read this journal. Once you hear the voices, there's no going back." Of course, Ethan just laughed it off. "What a load of crap," he said, and started reading. The first few pages were pretty normal. Dreams, old town stories, that sort of thing. But as he read on, the entries got weirder. The person writing the journal described a thing they called the voices. Apparently, this thing would follow people who were alone and lure them into darkness. Ethan just shrugged it off and tossed the journal aside. But that night, the whispers started. Ethan told me later that he was just hanging out in his room when he thought he heard someone calling his name. At first, he thought, must be my imagination. But a few seconds later, the voice became clearer. Ethan. Ethan ... He looked around, but no one was there. The street outside was completely empty, but the sound alone was enough to freak him out. He grabbed the journal and tried to shove it back into the chest, but every time he tried to close the lid, the whispers grew louder. Soon, deep groaning sounds began to echo through the walls. And then I saw it, Ethan told me. That shadow. It was a dark figure. Human-like, but with no eyes. It moved like a ripple in the corner of his room. And then, in a voice that filled the entire space, it spoke. "You woke us up. Now it's time to pay." Ethan tried to run, but the doors wouldn't open. The hallways of his house stretched on endlessly. No matter which way he turned, the darkness followed him. Eventually, he ended up in front of a mirror. In his reflection, his eyes were gone. Two pitch-black voids stared back at him. And then the voice came from the mirror. "This journal is now your fate. You are part of the voices." And that morning, Ethan was gone. His room was empty, like he had never lived there. But on his bed, that cursed journal was still there. On the last page, written in red ink, was a single sentence. "Now it's your turn." When I heard about it, I had already moved out of that town. But I can't stop thinking about that journal. We never found out what really happened to Ethan. So if you ever come across an old journal, whatever you do, don't open it.